Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's March 26th, 2022. Stephen Regis, how art thou?
Thanks for telling the audience my middle name, partner there, which it's been a long held secret for 57 years.
Like
So,
Cosmo Kramer kind of thing?
but welcome everybody back to the show. Yep.
Yeah. So, Steve, we got a bunch of stuff we want to cover today. But let's start off with our monologue, which, of course, is weekly sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. So, Steve, I think what I wanted to touch base on in this monologue is, you and I have been talking about these crazy sports contracts and the amount of money. And I think we have one guy right now, and I'm referring to Aaron Judge, who's, playing in his final season under his current contract. Actually, they just gave him, settled from before going to arbitration. But I think we're going to see record-breaking numbers. Now, let me put this into perspective here. Are we talking Mike Trout numbers? Maybe not from a length of contract perspective, which is Mike Trout's was 12 years, because he got that when he was like 23, 24 years old. Aaron Judge is 29, is going to be 30 at the end of April. But I think we're going to see, and now I guess we could term it as Max Scherzer type money. I think this guy is going to get like $40 million a year. As absurd as it sounds, I think that's what the market is dictating. He's clearly the face of the franchise. I think it's good publicity and PR for the Yankees to keep this guy around. I know there's always been talk about his durability and his ability to stay on the field, but I think we're going to be talking about numbers that are just unthinkable. And obviously, I started to wonder, is that why they didn't pursue Correa? Is that why they didn't, go after Freddie Freeman? And no, because it just came out yesterday that the New York Yankees are the most valuable sports franchise in all of sports, valued at like $6 billion. So that's why I'm thinking, and I'd definitely love to hear your thoughts on whether or not this, I think we could be talking about an 8-year contract in excess of $40 million a year. What do you think?
I think my guess would be a 7-year deal. And I like Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is a class kid. Plays right field. Since he came up, represents the New York Yankees class and dignity. Dictates that Aaron Judge, especially after the lockout, is going to get $40 million. Does he deserve $40 million? Of course not. Of course not. It's
That's
ridiculous.
my point. That's
right?
my point.
To your point. But that's what the market is. And is it going to happen? Yes. And has it influenced signing other free agents for the Yankees? Yes. Right? But the Yankees payroll is $254 million as it stands. Only the Mets and the Dodgers spend more money as of right now.
No.
Right? My concern with the Yankees, just shifting gears real quick on the Yankees, is for $254 million, I'm not seeing, like I said last week, Reggie Jackson, Catfish Hunter, Nettles, Munson, Lou Piniella, Paul O'Neill, Derek Jeter, and on. Right? But Aaron Judge is going to get the money, to answer your question, and it's just the way it is.
It is. It's just it's what's going on in sports, and I again, you and I keep bringing it back that okay, you want to pay these guys this kind of money, it's going to prevent a lot of people from actually being able to afford to go to these games, and that's the shame of it. I want to see Aaron Judge in pinstripes for the rest of his career, and I absolutely agree with you that durability is a question, but he's going to get this kind of money.
Yes, he is. Yeah. And I said last week, this lockout's bad for business. I mentioned myself as a consumer, right? And you and I have said this 1,000 times on our show. I'm not paying a dime for a ticket. I'm not paying for parking. I'm not paying $20 to go over the GW Bridge. I'm just not doing it. somebody wants to give me a ticket, well, great. Fine.
Exactly. And I told you, I've actually finally made a stand. I mean, I went with one of our sponsors, took us to a Patriots game, and I just absolutely refused to spend $18 for a beer at a football game. And it's hard for me to even take that stand, but enough is enough. And we beat this to death, but I just wanted to bring that up as our monologue. So, Steve, let's move on to what's really becoming just a great story for both, college basketball, which you and I have always said is nothing like this March Madness tournament. You never know what's going to happen, and we got to give the shout out to the little school from Jersey City, St. Peter's. And who would have thought that they were going to the Elite Eight? What's your impression of this?
I think this is. I made a statement right before we went to air, right? I think this is such a feel-good story that the country needs, okay? And
Yep.
We're biased. We're Jersey guys. St. Peter's is 20 minutes from my house here without traffic, mind you. But I didn't think they'd beat Purdue. I'm going to be honest, right?
Neither did I.
I just figured that Cinderella would have lost her slipper last night. So St. Peter's is the first number 15 team to ever make the Elite Eight.
Yep.
Just that in itself is so huge. I can't even tell you. Shaheen Holloway, the head coach of St. Peter's, we know who he is. A lot of the country doesn't know who he is, but former St. Peter's, or excuse me, Seton Hall, legendary point guard, right?
Yep.
And I read a little bit further about Shaheen a couple of days ago, that Shaheen in the McDonald's All-American game when he was a senior in high school happened to the same class as a guy named Kobe Bryant was in that McDonald's All-American game. And you know who the MVP of the game was? Shaheen Holloway.
Shaheen Holloway.
Right. So he's not only charismatic, you can sense that Shaheen cares and loves these kids.
Yep.
And they're playing with house money, and this is just such a feel-good story. I'm lapping it up big time.
And this is exactly why we get so excited about the NCAA tournament to this level, right?
Yeah.
Not only is they the number 15 seed, it's the first team from the MAC to make the Elite Eight. Everything. It's a win-win for this. And when you looked at them lined up against Purdue last night, and they just don't match up on paper. Purdue is a big team. I mean,
Purdue was the number one team in the nation for weeks this year.
Yeah,
weeks. The number one team in the nation.
And you know what? One thing I didn't realize is that the point guard for St. Peter's, that's Butch Lee's son.
Right. And for those that a lot of people don't know, Butch Lee was a guard on the 1977 Marquette Warriors at the time, head coached by one of Jim and I, my brother Tom, and our legendary coach Al McGuire.
Yeah.
And in '77, Marquette beat Dean Smith and North Carolina that year, and North Carolina was led by Mike O'Koren, was their big star that year. But Butch Lee were number 15, and he was a lefty. And Butch Lee and that Warrior team, NCAA champions. So I think that's another cool thing. 6 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon thing.
So 100%. Not only because we're biased with the whole Jersey thing, but this story is, if it keeps going, it's just great, and I think it's a reflection of the character, like you said, of the coach and the momentum that they're building up. Can they beat North Carolina? Listen, of course they can.
Yes. The answer, I'm not going to say no, they can't. They beat Purdue. They beat Murray State, right?
And Kentucky.
And they slayed one of the biggest dragons out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't say they can't beat North Carolina.
Yeah.
But back to Shaheen Holloway, just on his coaching. Last night, they went to a zone defense against Purdue for a period there in the second. And Purdue just couldn't score a bucket, right? So the point is, Shaheen Holloway knows basketball, man. He's a good coach.
Yep.
And let's face it, Shaheen Holloway is going to leave St. Peter's after this run, most likely. And I think it's great. Yeah. He goes back to Seton Hall. Yeah. And if he can bring the magic, what he's doing to St. Peter's to Seton Hall, and again, we all remember, Rob, our producer, is Seton Hall, bleeds Seton Hall. But you and I remember the Ramil Robinson Seton Hall, Michigan final. And to this day, I still think it was a bullshit call, right? And Robinson,
you're making me choke my breakfast here, guys. You're making me choke my breakfast.
But the point is, Seton Hall came as close to winning a national title as you could possibly come.
Yep.
And I would love for Shaheen Holloway, hopefully, to go back to his roots.
And real quick, guys, real quick. Here's the speculation: is that it's already signed and done, and that Coach Bill Meyer, who's the assistant head coach under Kevin Willard, shuffles over to St. Peter's and takes over for Shaheen. We'll see, though. I mean, not going to happen.
That's a fair trade.
Going up.
And listen, I mean, St. Peter's isn't the only story going on in this March Madness, right? This with the Duke Blue Devils and Coach K. This story, this could have that same kind of Cinderella finish that we come to expect in the NCAA's. And I mean, the road ahead is look who's left, right? Kansas, North Carolina, Miami, Duke, Houston, Nova, Arkansas, and Steve, kudos to you on the Arkansas, because my overall pick for the tournament was Gonzaga. Didn't think there was a chance in hell Arkansas could pull that off, and they did, because it's March Madness.
Right. Right. So, I mean, I'm still sticking to St. Peter's, but this one storyline if St. Peter's wins this, there's no storyline that could possibly top it, right?
Absolutely.
But the one that's 1-A is if Mike Krzyzewski and Duke, and he wins his 6th national title and gets carried off like Rudy and in the movie Rudy,
it would be unbelievable.
Into the sunset. That's a Hollywood script that nobody would really buy and think it's corny, but there's a very distinct possibility this could happen.
Yeah. So, we're down to 8 teams, right? And we got some just, again, great games to watch, great storylines to follow. And as always, the NCAA tournament does not disappoint.
Right. And real quick, I want to give don't forget about Villanova. Don't forget about Jay Wright.
Never.
He's already won it. Okay.
True.
But Villanova plays good defense. They have this character, the way they play basketball is they screen, they pick and roll, they play defense. To me, the way Jay Wright coaches, I'm a huge fan of him. So obviously, once we get to the Elite Eight, anybody, can win this. But don't forget about Villanova.
Oh, listen, how could you? I mean, I consider Jay Wright, like you, one of the best coaches in college basketball, right? But sometimes, great coaching and great talent gets trumped by stories like at St. Peter's. It's great. So
ask Mark Few.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! Again, Gonzaga, year after year after year, just an unbelievable team, and they just can't cross the finish line. It's amazing.
I feel bad for the guy because
I do too.
Gonzaga. Nobody's ever heard of Gonzaga. For the most part, John Stockton was there, tiny school in Washington, and for this guy year after year to have him at number one and this that I laud him.
Yep.
I really hope he gets a national title because he's one of the good guys that deserves it. So,
and one of those little stories that you bring up for Villanova and the long history of that program. How about this kid, Colin Gillespie? He's played more games for Villanova than anybody in history. And, that's just another storyline that we love to follow. And how could you not root for a guy like Gillespie? How could you not root for the guys on St. Peter's with that kind of storyline going. It's amazing. It's just great.
And then before we shift gears, I do have to flip this over a bit. There's a team left, Houston Cougars, but they're coached by Kelvin Sampson. Okay, and this is the dark side of college basketball, of college athletics. Kelvin Sampson. The fact, and I'm not disputing Houston's, 30. What are they now? 32-5 or whatever they are.
Yeah, they got an impressive record.
But a guy like Kelvin Sampson, time after time, having an opportunity to coach. This is a guy who's been fired from 4 schools. This is the guy who was at Indiana, and the recruiting violations were so egregious that he got suspended, banned for 5 years. This is the guy that was the president of the NCAA coaches ethics committee.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So my point is, when I see Kelvin Sampson on the sidelines, it makes me throw up. And I wanted to bring that up just to, say it's not all, fairies and sugar plums.
No, well, we know that because we've seen
a lot of people don't know that, Jim. That's my point.
I know, but we see guys, and again, college basketball coaches seem to be immune. We got the Huggins, the Patinos, and we got all of those.
The Eddie Suttons, exactly.
Yep.
The Dave.
So listen,
Bliss,
anyway.
How about the Dave Blisses from Baylor, whose player kills another player, and his coach is trying to cover it up, literally.
Right, but here's the difference. For some reason, college basketball guys get a second chance. Dave Bliss is not getting a second chance at anything, And he it's just crazy. But you're right. There is a dark side.
That's a show in itself, the Dave Bliss story. But people, if you want to see the worst of college athletics coaching, it's a documentary on HBO about Baylor basketball, and just search Dave Bliss, and it'll make your stomach turn.
Yep.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah. So listen, everybody, enjoy the Elite Eight. It's today and tomorrow. We'll have Final Four weekend, and so next weekend we'll see if we're talking about St. Peter's again, same time next week.
Yep.
So Steve, let's move on to kind of a league we can't seem to, as much as we don't want to talk about it. So much has gone on in the NFL and in particular, I'm referencing this whole Deshaun Watson fiasco, and it's really so disturbing that this is going on and that they're paying him this money. The press conference yesterday was an absolute joke, and whether or not they did vet it. And again, we're not here to pass judgment on whether he's guilty or not guilty, but there just seems to be so much against him. But the Cleveland Browns, and I think this is going to come back to haunt them. I don't think he's worthy of that kind of money. He hasn't really won anything. His character is certainly in question, and I think this is going to keep the Cleveland Browns from winning a National Football League championship for many years to come. What was your impressions of that? You couldn't even sit through this press conference. Just the baloney that they kept throwing out. We did a thorough investigation. We did this, and look what they gave up to get this guy. 3 number 1 picks, and they threw their starting quarterback to the curb. It's just a bad look for the NFL.
Right. My first observation about the press conference yesterday was the owners, the Haslams, not being there. They weren't there, in the press conference live.
Yep.
Supporting their $238 million guy with 22 lawsuits and on and on. That was number one, because Jimmy Haslam, I don't know, this guy, he reeks of just sleaze. It's the best I can come up with, okay?
I know.
Now, Deshaun Watson, I was watching him, and he had the orange tie on. He had a nice pinstripe suit, good-looking guy. Listen, and I'm looking at him, and I'm flashing back to the Clemson games against Alabama and all this, and I'm remembering how talented this kid was at Clemson, and especially the comeback in the national championship game and all the qualities. Yep. However, 22 freaking lawsuits. 22.
Yeah.
Not one, not two, not three. Right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay.
Most likely, yeah.
So it gets to this character issue. And listen, Deshaun Watson did a credible job yesterday. I'm innocent. And okay, this is America. Innocent, before proven guilty.
But if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, I am pissed. I am pissed.
I mentioned to Jim, I talked to my brother Tom, who's, the de facto third wheel in this show, knowledge-wise. And he said he's the biggest loyal Giant fan. He said if the New York Giants pulled this trade off and did this, he guarantees he would never have anything to do with the New York Giants again.
Well, I think this is his sentiment for
passion.
And
I said, you know what? I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. So I'm just getting to the point of what I think a lot of Cleveland fans must think.
Oh my God! I hope they don't go to the games. I just hope it blows up in their face.
Oh, I do too. Don't get me. I am rooting for this to really blow up in the Haslam's face.
I got you.
Question about it.
But listen, besides that horror show yesterday, a lot of movement. A lot of big name players changing teams. Right? Devontae Adams goes to the Raiders. Yeah. Tyreek Hill goes to for unbelievable amounts of money. Matt Ryan, right? Who's always been a classy guy, very good quarterback, probably going to the Hall of Fame.
I said last week I envisioned Matt Ryan wearing the horseshoe.
Well, that's where he's going.
I think that is such a logical move, and I really think the Colts are a serious contender with the talent they have on that team. Matt Ryan's got 2 or 3 years left in the tank.
I think he's still got some time left.
I think this is huge. This is huge. And then what is Atlanta thinking? Listen, they wanted to get out from under the Matt Ryan contract, no question about it. But like we said last week, all signs indicated that Watson was going to wind up in Atlanta, right? So now they jettison Matt Ryan, and who do they bring in? Marcus Mariota.
Again,
okay. That must mean they're in the quarterback market in the draft. Okay, that's what it means.
Yeah, stopgap kind of thing, right? Yeah.
But I want to say real quick on Tyreek Hill. So in my day job, I work with a passionate Jet fan, and he's like a Twitter guy and all this stuff. So he's like, Jets, Miami, Tyreek Hill, oh come on, blah blah blah. And I said to him, calm down, young fella, calm down, right? I said, do you really want Tyreek Hill? This is Tyreek Hill who punched his pregnant girlfriend in college. This is Tyreek Hill who's been in the NFL a beater. But it's Tyreek Hill who's got the third most touchdown. I understand the production. He's a special player when you watch him. But my first observation to him was, I said, do you think Tyreek Hill in Miami is going to be Tyreek Hill? Because Patrick Mahomes is not throwing him the ball anymore. Tua is going to be throwing him the ball. And when the ball is behind him and when the ball is feathered out there to him, I don't think Tyreek Hill is going to be Tyreek Hill.
I mean, listen, I don't think either one of us are questioning his talent for sure, right? But I think this goes more along the lines of character means nothing in the National Football League.
I get that. I'm talking, I don't think Tyreek Hill is going to be as effective a weapon because he doesn't have Superman Patrick Mahomes throwing him missiles, hitting him in stride. Tua is floats it out there, right? And I just see this. I just don't see Tyreek Hill matching the level of production that he obviously did with Patrick Mahomes.
And again, maybe Tua is not the end state in Miami because I don't think he's at that level at all. But you still got Mayfield out there. You got Garoppolo out there. I mean, where are these guys going to end up?
I don't know.
Right. And look what's happened, right? The Packers make this commitment to Aaron Rodgers and then they trade their 2 top wide receivers. So sometimes I wonder, is it easy or difficult to be a general manager in this game? Because there doesn't seem to be any accountability for anything.
Well, again, the musical chairs basically have stopped at the quarterback position, and there's 2 seats, that are full. That 2 guys are standing right now, like you said,
Yep.
Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, I talked about it before the Ryan thing. I thought he'd land in Indianapolis. And with Tommy Boy, being retired for 44 days or whatever it was, that was another logical spot, Jimmy G, maybe to Tampa Bay. But as we broadcast right now, Baker Mayfield, I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know if Seattle has the interest, because it sounds like the only logical destination at this point. And as far as Jimmy G, I don't know. I don't know where there's a starting position for this guy.
Yeah.
I just don't know at this
And
point.
this again, you're right. I mean, like a stopgap statement like you made for Mariota, right? Who's just been an average quarterback at best. Does this mean in a light quarterback draft with Malik
Willis
and Kenny Pickett and whatnot? Listen, he sounds like the right fit for somebody like Pittsburgh, right? That's the kind of guy I think Mike Tomlin likes. But again, this is all speculation. On pro day, he could throw the ball 150 yards, and that's great. But that doesn't mean, we all thought this about Trey Lance and that kind of a quarterback. Is that Michael Vick running around with the ability to throw on the run the new style quarterback in this league? Who knows?
Now, this Malik Willis, I think, is the real deal here.
He looks good. Yeah,
I think he's going to be the real deal. He started his college career at Auburn, so a lot of people know that where does he go now? Liberty, right? He started at Auburn, transferred to Liberty, number 1. Yeah. Tomlin took him out to dinner during the his pro day at Liberty, so Tomlin has wood for him. Carolina needs a quarterback. Carolina's either all in on Willis or they're all in on Pickett. And whoever goes, I think, to Carolina, Pittsburgh is either going to take Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis. But I think another team is going to jump up to get this Malik Willis, because there were some passes this guy threw. And I know, as an ex-quarterback, being out on an open wide field in shorts and making throws to another guy in shorts is a hell of a lot easier than, with big men wanting to kill you. But I think this guy is going to be the number 1 quarterback taken, and he's got the size, and I don't see like this Jamarcus Russell, Dwayne Haskins,
I get you.
Question marks that I had on them, and which proven out, that they were complete bust.
Well, there's one other quarterback that's out there that I think, from a draft perspective, is Matt Corral from Mississippi, and obviously, he got injured in the bowl game, and that's a good point for people to say why these kids are bypassing bowl games now, but. He's a sleeper. I think he looks like he's got all the tools to be an NFL-type quarterback. Whether he's healthy enough to be a number 1 draft pick for somebody like Carolina remains to be seen.
The only red flag I have about Matt Corral is this is the first year I ever heard of him. Okay? I never heard of him before. Granted, he played at Mississippi for Lane Kiffin, right? And Kiffin is the offensive guru. I get it. He had a nice year. He didn't have this, off the charts year, as far as I'm concerned. I'm just saying
he's got the size, he's got the arm strength, he's got all the tools, and you're right.
What I'm beating around the bush is I haven't seen enough of Matt Corral playing for me to give him an honest grade. So I don't know. I don't know anything about him really, and I wouldn't take a flyer on him. First round person. Yeah,
but I could see him being at least a second round.
I do too. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying me personally.
Yep.
And we did have a comment from one of our listeners, Michael Garvey, who said that 222 women have accused Deshaun Watson of pulling out his Johnson. 214, excuse me. 22 lawsuits, but 214 is an awful lot. That's Will Chamberlain territory.
Well, that's a Matt Ryan accusation? I guess?
No, it's got to be. No, can't be. Matt Ryan. Oh,
I've never heard anything.
I never heard of that. I just assumed Deshaun Watson. Matt Ryan.
Well, we're going to have to do our homework on that because I didn't put him in the Roethlisberger class. That's for sure.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I just glanced over it. Sorry, Mike. Wow. 214 have accused Matt Ryan of whipping out his Johnson. I never heard of that before.
I never heard it either. So listen, Steve.
Some Johnson he's got.
That is the soap opera. That is the National Football League, and it's tearing us to pieces to watch this in front of our eyes.
And we're a month away from the draft.
Yeah, and we'll obviously talk about the draft a little bit more in depth. So let's a couple other quick things that obviously the Masters is coming up. We'll give our Masters picks next week, but all the guys are getting ready. It's going to be a shootout, but there's one guy who's not going to be playing in the Masters, and that's Mr. Mickelson.
Yes,
Any thoughts on that?
When I saw it, I said, "Wow, Phil's not playing."
Yeah, he's burned up. He's burned a lot of bridges.
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, this is. He thought he put his hand on the stove and got burnt. No, his arm is in a vat of boiling water.
It is.
And you know what? He's getting his comeuppance for it. And if he's, don't think Jay Monahan, the tour commissioner, didn't say, yeah, you ain't playing in the Masters.
I know. Or Hootie Johnson or somebody, right? We don't need this kind of. This is not what we need here.
Yeah. But Tiger's playing.
I don't think he is playing.
I think he is.
I don't know if that's been confirmed.
I don't know if it's official yet. I'm gonna lean that Tiger's gonna play.
I'm just not sure he could walk, 18 holes a day for 4 days. I just don't see it. I don't know if he's that close to coming back.
I think you're forgetting who we're dealing with here.
So listen, the Masters is coming, so I just wanted to touch on that. I don't even want to touch base on the NBA because it's still up in the air. We've talked about it. The Lakers on their way down. Can the Nets rebound? They're starting to play healthy. The vaccine mandate is lifted in New York.
That's newsworthy for, the New York City. We talked how ridiculous this vaccine rule was, and it helps the Nets, right?
Right,
so
but what else helps the Nets? These guys are
the Yankees, and it helps the Knicks, and it helps the Rangers.
Right, but for the Nets, I think this played into exactly how Kyrie Irving wanted it to play. He doesn't want to play a full season, so he's been on the shelf. Kevin Durant with a hamstring injury for a month, so these guys are well rested. But I still think there's a big mountain to climb to get past Milwaukee.
I agree.
Yeah. So, Steve, I got a couple of random points of interest I just wanted to bring up.
And then real quick on the NBA, our loyal listener, Mike Garvey. What's going on with the Miami Heat, Mr. Garvey? A scuffle on the bench with Jimmy Butler and,
Coach
Haslam
Spoelstra.
and Coach Spoelstra throwing down his clipboard. And, Mike, the Heat were in town in New York City last night and lost to the Knicks.
They did.
Trouble in South Beach. Just ask.
Seems like it. It seems like it. So listen, let's see. As they say, it got heated on the bench in Miami the other night. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Steve, couple of random points of interest. Of course, sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. Couple things that we kind of mentioned it before the show. I think Rob brought it up. Kevin Willard, Seton Hall coach, taking the Maryland job. So that dispels my thought that Pitino was going to be taking that job.
Yeah, I
still don't think he's going to stay at Iona if a bigger offer comes along. But Kevin Willard to Maryland, and I think obviously you mentioned before Shaheen Holloway to Seton Hall. We'll see how that plays out.
I was with you thinking Pitino the whore would bolt for Maryland. But
yeah. A couple other things real quick. How about this? And we've seen this before on the women's side of tennis. Ash Barty, the #1 player in the world, retires at age 25. And immediately when you hear that, you think of somebody you and I talked about who retired very young, Bjorn Borg, right? At 27.
Yeah.
Clearly, she's, like I said, she was going to be the new face of women's tennis, and now they need to get somebody else, right?
Yeah, listen, I'm okay with this. Ash Barty, if you saw the press conference and her answering questions about it, she seems like a happy-go-lucky and very comfortable with this decision. I mean, she's a major champion. She's ranked #1 in the world. At times. 25, she wants to move on and do something else. Fine. I mean, all the power to her.
Yeah.
Will she come back at some point and miss it? Maybe. So, what will she be, 28, 29 if she decides to?
Right, but very, very few people, for some reason, in tennis. Borg came back and, wasn't the same player, obviously.
I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with this. I think she's very comfortable in her decision.
And here's another. And, this guy not only shouldn't be, the face of this ultimate fighting UFC. This guy, Conor McGregor, he is out of control. And I don't get why people are so fascinated with this guy. He's just a flat out troublemaker. I mean, but this is what that whole thing, and my feelings on this UFC stuff. I can't stand it. I think it's barbaric and insane. So I guess he is the kind of poster child that they do want. But do I consider him an athlete? No, I consider him a pile of dog crap. That's what I consider this guy.
You know what? I was scanning the files yesterday, and then I saw this blip on just the blip headline. Conor McGregor pulled over in Ireland for, and I said, I didn't even click the link. And I just moved on. I don't care. I don't care.
I get it, but people are paying to see this kind of guy. And I just thought it was something. I said, again with this guy.
The last time I saw Conor McGregor, I did watch that fight. I think his name is Poirier or Dustin Poirier or something. Poirier, right? And, kicked the crap out of McGregor. Yeah, McGregor broke his leg in the process and all this shit. Point was, this guy Poirier kicked the crap out of him. And I loved watching every second. I don't like Conor McGregor at all.
But I parallel him to like a Mike Tyson. Like you say, the guy is great for his particular sport. People want to see him. But, he's nothing but trouble. And you're right. His record isn't as good as everybody makes it seem like it is. And you're right. He got demolished last time out. Just wanted to bring that up.
You do have to tip your hat to the guy that he's become this prominent in the sport, because obviously he had to have done some good things, right, in the ring. But this guy is such an atrocious,
horrible. Here was an interesting thing that when we were talking about the baseball lockout, and what comes up was a very interesting thing. I didn't do a lot of research on it, because I didn't really understand the concept of this international draft that they want to have. And, this has a lot of impact. And in particular, these guys from the Dominican Republic who, basically were getting signed, to contracts at 12 years old for their potential. And, they were making a lot of money. There's a lot of guys that came out of this. But now this is going to change. They're not going to have the ability to kind of do this, and it's supposed to clean up this whole concept of signing young talent from either Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico or wherever it may be.
Right.
But it's kind of a big deal, and this was one of those stumbling points. Yeah.
I'm okay with this, because they kind of thought about it. There was really no rhyme or reason to how Major League Baseball, would get a player from a foreign country. It just seemed like, if you put a bid in, right? And
Yep.
who are the bidders going to be? Typically, the Angels, Yankees, Dodgers, Cubs, Red Sox, Mets.
The money teams.
Period. Right? So open the sealed envelope, and we're willing to give a $40 million bid to get the rights to negotiate another $40 million or whatever the hell it is. But at least it sounds like there's a level playing field here, and it's taken away the power of that player, international player, to say, well, I don't want to play like Ohtani. I don't want to play on the East Coast. I want to play on the West Coast. It don't work that way. Okay. Yep. So I think it's a good thing.
Well, I think it was this, like I said, I mean, you have these young kids like Tatis and Guerrero and all of these guys that are making a boatload of money, right out of the gate. I think it's designed, I think, to kind of clean up the corruption that normally went with scouting these guys and signing them, when they were 12 years old. I thought it was an interesting point, and that was one of the stumbling blocks in the lockout.
Yeah.
One other thing, you and I, every now and then we talk about the absurdity of people buying these trading cards, like a LeBron James or a Michael Jordan card or a Luka Doncic card, selling for $4 million for a little piece of paper.
Yeah.
I saw something that, and I said, if I had $1 million to spend on a baseball card, I would buy Tiger Woods' golf clubs from the Tiger Slam of his career. You get something actually tangible about it. So that's going to probably fetch at least $1 million. But I started to laugh, saying, would I pay $1 million for those golf clubs, or would I pay $4 million for a Luka Doncic card? I don't know.
I would pay.
If you can afford either, that means you have the money. So
I would pay the equivalent of whatever Peterman paid for John Kennedy's golf club.
A presidential golf.
And I
just thought it was interesting.
The first card
I would buy anything. Right?
First card I would buy would be a Conor McGregor Classic.
Yeah. Before he wrecks it, right?
Right. So. Yeah, listen, the memorabilia, this card collection stuff, it's big business, man. It's big business. And
I get it, but my point was, if you can afford to spend $1 million on something like that, that means it's not for an investment. It's like buying a Picasso. You know,
right. It's like Steve Cohen of the Mets, who's worth $16 billion, buying some silly statue or something he paid like $20 million for or something.
Yep.
He wanted it. He could afford it. He got it.
I got it. I just thought it was. I said at least I got a set of golf clubs out of it for my money. I thought that was funny.
Right.
So, Steve, a couple of other things, real quick, on our notable passings. Grindstone, who was the oldest living Kentucky Derby winner, won the 1996 Kentucky Derby, died at 29 years old.
Yeah, Grindstone. I remember Grindstone. I remember that too. Yeah, I remember that race. Wow, long life.
So he was 29 years old. So he had a pretty good run after, and he literally, the Kentucky Derby was his last race. He actually had a bone chip and stuff. So a lot of guys normally go on and race up at Saratoga like Secretariat did or American Pharoah did.
Yeah.
It was a one and done horse, but it was notable that he passed.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Another notable was, and we talked about, it was an NFL referee a couple of weeks ago. There was another one, Wayne Mackey.
Wayne Mackey.
Yeah.
62
years old. Yeah.
Right.
62.
Yeah, it's I'm not, when somebody told me that, I said, yeah, I know the name Wayne Mackey.
Yeah, because sometimes the referees have a bigger part in an NFL game than the players themselves. So,
you better believe it.
But he was good. And actually notable also from the world of politics, Madeleine Albright, first female Secretary of State. When you think about it, it's a great story. I mean, she came from from nowhere and, had to escape the Nazi regime. But she came up. She's very polished, educator, politician. I thought it was notable. She was 84 years old.
Yep. Secretary of State under Clinton.
So
first woman Secretary of State.
Yeah. So listen, Steve, I think you have a little bit of a shout out before we sign off on this week and get all set for the NCAA Elite Eight this week.
Just give me 30 seconds.
Yeah, you bet. And I just want to show a real quick video, 9 seconds.
Real quick, give me 30 seconds.
Yeah, no problem. My son Sean attends Ramapo High School, right? And he had a tough couple weeks. He got cut from the varsity. He missed all last year with 2 surgeries his freshman year. He's down in the dumps for 2 weeks, and so he played a JV scrimmage. This is 2 to 3 days ago, and all I did, and again, as a father trying to encourage your sons and daughters when they play sports, is attitude and effort is the only 2 things that we can control out there when you cross a white line. And that's what I try to instill in them. And I just wanted to, show this 9-second video of this exemplified attitude and effort from my son that I was proud to see. So,
and I will tell you,
for the sake of structure, you can refer back to it. Remember that your thesis statement you can refer back to in your body paragraphs. So if they're all bing bang.
So he hustled to get that ball, right? And then he got right up. And the burst of energy that he showed, and he finished, and he was physical, and I hope that propels him to make him feel I belong. I
hope so
as a
too.
Sophomore, and the varsity program there is no joke. So,
and I got to tell you, from this whole perspective of they didn't have lacrosse really when we were in high school. It's amazing how big in popularity it's gotten at the high school and college level. It's really amazing. It's taken a lot of kids away from playing football and baseball because they're really into this.
Yeah. So when my son watches the show later, I love you, pal, and I wish you nothing but the best out there.
So listen, we got again the Cinderella story to watch this weekend. I can't wait. We'll be back with you guys same time next week. Rob, thanks for all the producership that you bring to the show.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rob.
And everybody, enjoy the March Madness because it continues. And we'll catch up to you guys next week. Steve, good to have you back.
Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Be good.